You know that phrase, the $1 million home? It's become this cultural benchmark, right? It's shorthand for making it, for hitting that peak of the American dream. And it paints a picture, doesn't it? You think of luxury, a big yard, maybe a pool, plenty of space. For years, that's been the symbol. But what happens when that dream, that powerful symbol, runs head on into one of the most brutal, most expensive real estate markets in the entire world? Seriously, just take a second and think about that. When I say $1 million home, what pops into your head? Is it that big suburban house with the white picket fence? Or maybe a slick modern penthouse looking out over a city skyline? Whatever that image is, just hold on to it, because we're about to put that image to a serious test. Because right here in the San Francisco Bay Area, that $1 million price tag, it doesn't get you the dream you're probably picturing. Not even close. What it buys you is a compromise. It buys you a set of really tough choices. It tells a story that is completely different from the myth. So today we're pulling back that curtain to look at the myth versus the often shocking reality. Let's get into it. Before we jump in, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This helps the channel grow. And check out the links in the description if you're looking for a real estate agent in your market or you need life insurance. My team and I can help you anywhere nationwide. Okay, so to really get a handle on what's going on in this market, we've got to get past the numbers and actually see it for ourselves. So we're going on a little virtual reality tour across 4 key cities in the Bay Area. And our goal is super simple, to find out what a budget of around $1 million actually gets you. And we have to kick things off right here in the epicenter, San Francisco. You know it, the iconic city with the fog, the culture, the global tech hub, and of course, the absolutely eye-watering real estate prices. If $1 million sounds like a ton of money, well, San Francisco is where that idea gets put in its place fast. And boom, here is our very first reality check. For just under $1 million, what you're looking at is a one-bedroom condo. Now, it might be in a nice building, maybe it has a gym, but I want you to look at that size, around 600 square feet. Let's just frame that for a second. The average two-car garage in America is somewhere between 400 and 500 square feet. So for $1 million, you're living in a space that is barely bigger than a garage. It's the condo life. It's compact for sure, but man, is it small. This is a space for one person, maybe a couple, but it is a world away from that big house we were all picturing a minute ago. So maybe our money can stretch a little further, right? Let's find out. We'll just take a quick drive across the Bay Bridge over to Oakland. Now, Oakland's got its own awesome, vibrant culture, and for a long time, it was seen as the more affordable place to be. But as all that money and demand started spilling over from San Francisco, Oakland's prices just exploded. So, how does our $1 million budget do over here? Now, at first glance, this looks way better, doesn't it? In Oakland, for about the same price, you can actually get a house. A whole house, 3 bedrooms, and you double your space to about 1,200 square feet. But, and this is a big but, here comes the trade-off, the reality check. These houses are often much older, 1920s, 1940s, and they're what real estate agents politely call fixer-uppers. And let's be real, that just means it needs a ton of work. So your $1 million entry fee doesn't just buy you the keys, it buys you a massive project that could easily cost you tens of thousands, maybe even $100,000 more to fix up. So yeah, you get more space, but it comes with a big helping of financial risk. All right, leaving the East Bay, we're now heading south, down into the absolute engine room of this whole region's economy, San Jose. This is the capital of Silicon Valley, surrounded by the headquarters of the biggest, richest tech companies on earth. And you better believe the real estate market reflects all that concentrated wealth. So in San Jose, that $1 million lends you somewhere in the middle of our first 2 examples. You're looking at a 2-bedroom townhouse. Size-wise, it's around 800 square feet. So it's definitely bigger than that tiny San Francisco condo, but it's a lot smaller than the Oakland house. And you're almost certainly sharing walls with neighbors. And notice the price here, it often pushes just over that $1 million mark. What you're really paying for here is location, location, location. This is the Silicon Valley Premium. It's the price you pay to have a shorter commute to those high-paying tech jobs. You're basically buying back time, but you're getting up space and privacy to get it. You know, there's a quote from our source material that just hits the nail on the head here. A pattern is definitely starting to emerge, isn't it? No matter where you look, the $1 million question isn't which amazing house am I going to buy? The real question is, which huge compromise am I willing to live with? Is it going to be size? Is it going to be the condition of the house or the type of property? Because for $1 million, you just can't have it all. Okay, for our final stop on this little reality tour, let's check out a city that represents a totally different kind of choice. We're going to Fremont. It's a much more suburban place, further out from the main hubs of San Francisco and Oakland. This is where a lot of families go, hoping that if they just drive a little further, they can finally get the space they're looking for. And look at this. Finally, we've got something that actually kind of looks like that traditional $1 million home we were talking about at the beginning. For just under $1 million, you can land a 4-bedroom single family house with a pretty decent 1,800 square feet. This is the perfect example of the location trade-off. You can get the bigger house, you can get the yard for the kids, but it comes at the cost of a soul-crushing commute, sometimes hours every single day to get to those big job centers. You're trading your time for space. Okay, so we've seen the tiny condo, the fixer-upper, the long commute suburban house. You get the picture, right? Trade-offs everywhere. But none of those, not even the condo, truly captures the absolute insanity of this market. There's one example from our research that perfectly sums up the sheer, mind-bending reality of Bay Area real estate. The final sales price? $1.2 million. Just look at that number for a second. $1,200,000. That's 20% more than the huge budget we've already been working with. So what does that get you? For 1.2 million in a great San Francisco neighborhood, you've got to be thinking, okay, maybe a really, really nice 1 bedroom, maybe a small 2 bedroom with a view, right? What could possibly justify that kind of price tag? 200 square feet. No, that is not a typo. 200 for $1.2 million. That is smaller than most people's master bathrooms. It's smaller than a 1-car garage. It's what you call a micro studio. We're talking about a single room. This right here is the absolute peak of how disconnected price and size have become. It is a data point so wild, it feels made up, but I assure you, it is the reality of a market pushed to its absolute breaking point. Navigating a market this complex can feel impossible on your own. Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This helps the channel grow. And check out the links in the description if you're looking for a real estate agent in your market or you need life insurance. My team and I can help you anywhere nationwide. Okay, so when you see something like a $1.2 million room, the first thing you ask is, how? How on earth did we get here? And the thing is, this isn't random. It's not just some crazy bubble. It's actually the logical, if not extreme, conclusion of some massive economic forces all crashing together. It really comes down to 3 big things, and they all feed off each other in this powerful, almost unstoppable cycle. First, you've got the most dominant and wealthiest industry in the world, tech. Second, and this is so important, you have a severely limited housing supply. And third, you get the inevitable result of those first 2 things, a level of demand and competition that is just off the charts. So let's break down how each of these things warps the market. So let's start with the engine, the tech boom. For the last couple of decades, the Bay Area has been ground zero for an industry that has created an unbelievable amount of wealth. We're talking hundreds of thousands of jobs with 6-figure salaries, plus stock options that can be worth millions. What that does is create this huge wave of buyers with, frankly, enormous amounts of cash. When a big tech company has an IPO, it can create thousands of new millionaires in a single day. These are people who can afford these crazy prices. They can pay all cash, they can waive all the rules, and that creates this hyper-competitive frenzy where a normal buyer with a regular mortgage can barely even get their offer looked at. It's a constant, relentless force pushing prices up for everybody. Now you take all that demand, all that tech money, and you slam it right up against our second problem, a serious, serious lack of supply. And this problem has 2 parts. First, there's just geography. The Bay Area is basically a peninsula. You've got the Pacific Ocean on one side, the bay on the other. You can't just build outwards forever. But the bigger problem is man-made. For decades, you've had restrictive zoning laws and a powerful, not-in-my-backyard attitude that has made it incredibly slow, difficult, and expensive to build new homes, especially dense apartment buildings. So while the region was adding hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs, it was only building a tiny fraction of the homes needed for those workers. It is a textbook case of massive demand hitting a wall of low supply, and the only possible result is prices going through the roof. So, what happens when you mix a fire hose of demand with a garden hose of supply? You get the modern reality for anyone trying to buy a home in the Bay Area. The name of the game is no longer finding your dream home. The name of the game is figuring out which fundamental, life-altering compromise you're willing to make peace with. And honestly, the best way to think about this is with what I call the buyer's choice triangle. You see the 3 corners, right? You've got the things everyone wants: a good price, a good size and good condition, and a great location. Now, in a normal market, you might be able to get all three. But in the Bay Area, there's a rule. For $1 million, you get to pick two. That's it. You want a big house in a great location? You can have it. But it's not going to be $1 million. It's going to be two or three or more. You want a good price in a great location? No problem. That's our tiny San Francisco condo. How about a good price and a good size? You can have that too. That's our Fremont house with the killer commute. Every single property we looked at today fits on this triangle of compromise. And that quote you see right there, that's really the core lesson of this whole thing. To even have a chance in this market, you have to completely change your mindset. It's not about making a wish list. It is a cold, hard, strategic game of managing your own expectations and deciding brutally and honestly which one of those corners on the triangle you're willing to give up. So let's just boil it all down to one crucial point. In the Bay Area, $1 million is not a symbol of luxury anymore. It's not the finish line. It is the entry fee. It is the starting line for a very complex and often painful game of trade-offs. The dream isn't completely dead, but it has been radically redefined by cold, hard economic reality. And that really brings this whole thing back around to you. We've taken a deep dive into the crazy reality of the Bay Area, but we all know real estate is local. The story is different everywhere. So we'd love to know, what does $1 million buy where you live? Is it a true mansion, a nice, comfortable family home, or is it more like San Francisco, a tiny box in the sky? Let us know down in the comments. Drop your city and what $1 million gets you there. It's always fascinating to see the huge differences across the country and the world. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This helps the channel grow. And check out the links in the description if you're looking for a real estate agent in your market or you need life insurance. My team and I can help you anywhere nationwide. Thanks so much for watching.